The following is the overview for Infor Visuals Shop Floor version 907. The overview begins with 3 display enhancements. Next, we will look at performance enhancements, followed by locations on the fly enhancement. We will cover 3 enhancements for labor, and finally we'll end by looking at 2 enhancements for security. Let's look at the grid menus display option to start. On the main menus, you will notice now that there are options for menu selections. Up here over in the right hand side, there's a new icon. And this display is considered our grid display, including icons for each one of the major sections. Let's take a look at the labor one, and you'll notice that I'm in a list in the labor view. In this labor display, you can see the list. You have to scroll down to see all of the items that are inside of my options. However, when I use a grid view, you notice that the icons remain on the page and they'll just wrap as I shorten the window. So with the smaller displays, there's an added advantage using the grid display. And you'll also notice that using the work order material display, comparable, where I have to scroll down for the list view. With a grid display, I'm able to come in, and with the shorter modified screen, I can actually see all of my options. Note that these display settings are stored inside of Visual. Inside of the preference maintenance, the list display will be with a value of 0, and the grid display is a value of 1. Configuration grids have been added to the shop floor application. Let's take a look at an example. From the main menu, I'm going to go into the scheduling window, and now you can see on the right hand side there's an icon. This icon allows me to go into a configuration window, and in my example I'm going to take away the remaining hours from the display, and now you get back to the main menu, and you can notice that the remaining hours no longer appear. This grid configuration exists in several windows inside of shop floor maintenance. The resource schedule window will now include 2 additional columns. The columns that are added now will be the operation start and the operation finish. These are the dates based upon your scheduling. Let's review some performance improvements. We'll begin by looking at the Show Fields display filter. Inside of this window, you'll notice that there's a new drop-down for Show, and here's where it can limit the number of fields or records that come across. And you'll identify this, or you'll be able to see this inside of the Resource Schedule window, Operations window, Material window, as well as the Available Jobs view. Included in the Resources window, there will be now a refresh button. The refresh button can be found here up in the header portion of the window, and it will allow you to manually do the refresh versus waiting for the automatic refresh to take place. Adding inventory locations on the fly is now available inside of shop floor maintenance. Settings from site maintenance also apply here inside of shop floor maintenance. Notice the part location on the fly flags. You have not allowed, assigned to existing locations, and create new locations and assign to part. All apply here inside of the shop application. I'm going to go in and adjust it in a part as an example. And the primary location for the part displays. And you'll notice that I only have 1 location currently for this part ID. I'm going to go in and try to add it to Area 2, which does exist in the database but is not attached to the part ID. I will attach it to the part ID at this point in time, and here's where I can go through and update the location information. I could have also gone through and created a brand new location to that warehouse. And that's what I've done in this example. And it's asking me if I want to add the warehouse and also add it to the part. I'm going to accept it at this point in time. And here I can also modify that location information. Shop floor labor has 3 enhancements. We'll begin by looking at Clocked In Employee View. Selecting the labor menu, I'll drill down. You can now see the icon for the employees clocked in. Selecting that option, I can now see the new screen, and here you can see that I have 3 employees clocked into the system currently, 2 into jobs, and 1 just logged in to the system. The view has multiple columns. This may be a good example for filtering down or configuring less columns. In the header, you also have more filters. As you can see, the employee ID, department, and shift IDs. As an example, I could demonstrate who's clocked in from sales. I'll type sales into the department ID, and you notice that I have 1 employee that is clocked in. I'm going to clear the filter and press the show more option, and this would be directly to the employee information. With this option, you can show either all employees or flag this to show clocked in only. The view also has the dynamic filter, where you can type in just about anything that you want to filter it down to, and I'm just doing prod, and you'll notice on the right hand side that it filtered my part based on that dynamic filter. The next labor enhancement is auto stop jobs on clockout. For this example, I'm going to type in an employee ID. This employee is currently clocked into a job. Then go to the clock out button, and you'll notice that I get a new warning when I try to clock out of this job. You'll clock out without quantities being reported. To finish displaying this example, I'm just going to go into my labor, and you'll notice the employee that I just clocked out, and you can see his labor ticket is at 0 or 0 quantity. Our third labor enhancement is for stopping multiple jobs. This example begins by looking at the preferences. I'm going to go underneath the labor tab, and inside of here I need to make sure that I do have something set for the multiple jobs, and I'm going to submit that. Go back to scheduling. Inside of there now I can log in as an employee, and if you remember from the 905 enhancement, I can select multiple jobs on the left hand side, and then I can start the run. My employees logged into all 3 jobs, and I'm going to submit that entry. Notice the icons on the left identifying that these jobs are in process for this employee. Next, I can come back here now in version 907, highlight the same 3 jobs, and I can do a multiple stop of these jobs at this point in time. The labor is reported for all 3 jobs, and Dave is logged out of all 3 jobs. Now let's review the security enhancements. We'll begin with the customer priority flag. There's program field security added in the manufacturing window. For this example, let's go over to profile user security. Inside of here, I'm going to select a user. Then I'm going to go down to program security. In that list, I'm going to scroll down to the manufacturing window, and now you should be able to identify that I have program field security available, and this will go up against customer priority. For my user ID, I'm going to change his access to read only and save and commit the security at this point in time. Opening the manufacturing window as the modified user, I can now go in and open the header card to review the status of the customer priority. Down here in the lower right hand side, you'll notice the customer priority is now grayed out and unable to change for that current user. The ability to modify the customer priority has been added to the shop floor window. Here you can get into the options and make a modification or change. The security that we just browsed will also impact this option. Our last enhancement to review for version 907 will be the shop floor program component security. Back in security maintenance and looking at program security for my user, I'm going to look at the shop floor settings. You'll notice now that there is program component level security, and looking into that new menu option, you should be able to see where I can go through and change the access to either yes or no based upon the component. That's the current enhancement. Thank you for watching the overview of Infor Visuals Shop Floor version 907.